The sports media refuses to acknowledge and give people the full story. Right now, all they're doing, well, they're shilling for the WNBA. And that shouldn't shock us. I mean, the sports media is woke, and they've been in the bag for the WNBA for years now. Like it is. Well, they're doing it with the ratings. Oh my God. The ratings are so brave, stunning, and courageously large. Except the ratings are literally different than they were any other year.
The WNBA is celebrating what it calls its most watched finals in more than 2 decades, but behind the victory headlines lies a different story. Those record-breaking numbers aren't the result of sudden, explosive growth. They're the product of a clever manipulation hidden beneath the surface. What appears to be proof of soaring popularity is, in reality, a masterclass in statistical deception. This isn't about the league's triumph, it's about how data can be twisted to tell whatever story you want the public to believe. Somewhere in the fine print, the definition of a viewer quietly shifted, inflating the results beyond recognition. Instead of a genuine wave of fan engagement, we're looking at a mirage built through technicalities and presentation tricks. In this report, we're pulling back the curtain to show exactly how the numbers were redefined, why it matters, and what the league doesn't want you to see. Because once the truth comes out, those glowing headlines may look a lot less like celebration, and a lot more like cover-up
than they were any other year. But yet, the sports media, like Front Office Sports, will run a headline like this, completely misleading people.
If you've been anywhere near a sports headline lately, you've likely seen it, a wave of celebratory coverage across major outlets, from ESPN to Front Office Sports, all amplifying one bold message. The WNBA Finals have reached a 25-year viewership high. It was presented as a watershed moment, a turning point in women's sports history. The league proudly touted an average of nearly 2 million viewers, holding it up as undeniable evidence of a booming fan base and surging relevance. To sponsors, it was the affirmation they'd been waiting for. To broadcasters, it was the green light to invest further. On the surface, it painted the WNBA as more than just a league. It was now a movement, gaining traction organically and finally breaking through into mainstream culture. But like any story told too perfectly, the cracks begin to show once you take a closer look. This image wasn't just fortunate, it was manufactured. Carefully shaped, down to the last detail. Because when you strip away the glossy press releases and dig into how those numbers were actually measured, the story changes. Dramatically. And the truth underneath tells a much different tale, one the public was never meant to question.
WNBA Finals most viewed in 25 years, despite possible Aces sweep. Oh, this was before the game ended, but this came out late yesterday afternoon.
At the center of this entire illusion lies one critical, deliberately underplayed detail. The WNBA's so-called ratings breakthrough didn't come from a grassroots surge of new fans. It wasn't a cultural flashpoint or a viral moment. It was engineered, crafted not on the court, but behind closed doors in boardrooms. The real game changer? Nielsen, the gold standard in television ratings for decades, quietly rolled out a sweeping overhaul to its audience measurement system this year. And this wasn't a technical update or a marginal adjustment, it was a fundamental shift in how television viewership is calculated and defined. By altering the core methodology used to count viewers, Nielsen effectively rewrote the rules of the ratings game. That means any comparison to past years isn't just misleading, it's outright deceptive. To put it plainly, it's like shortening a marathon from 2 miles to 20, then declaring a new world record time. The conditions changed, but the celebration went on as if nothing had. They didn't just adjust the metrics, they redefined the playing field entirely. What was once a stable standard is now a moving target. And the league's so-called success? It's built on numbers that are no longer measuring the same thing.
The Aces have won all 3 games of the series, which are drawing 13% more viewers than last year. No shit, because you're literally including a shit ton of new TVs in this whole situation. It is unbelievable. They'll run this headline and then in fine print somewhere tell the whole story. The WNBA Finals continue to post strong viewership through 3 games. Well, honestly, compared to Indiana Fever regular season games, especially the ones Caitlin Clark plays in, but hell, the ones she don't. Ratings don't look that damn big to me still. They still don't look that big.
League chasing bigger numbers, this new system is a dream come true. But for anyone who values clean, accurate data, it's a nightmare. The methodology is called Big Data Plus Panel, and it marks a seismic shift in how television audiences are measured. In the past, Nielsen's system relied on a controlled sample of selected households, an approach designed for consistency and accountability. But with this overhaul, they've opened the floodgates. Now, data pours in from millions of smart TVs, streaming devices, and connected screens all across the country. This expansion means televisions in public places, bars, gyms, hotel lobbies, even airport terminals, are suddenly part of the official count. Didn't watch the game, but it was playing silently while you waited at the gate? You're now considered a viewer. That muted screen in a closed restaurant with no one around? Still counted. These are what analysts refer to as ghost viewers, passive, often unaware, or completely disengaged audiences that are now recorded as active fans. And when you multiply that effect across millions of screens, the result is a massively inflated viewership number. One that gives the illusion of historic popularity, when in reality, it's just a clever statistical mirage.
Not giving people the full story in these headlines. Yeah, oh my God, that catches attention, and everybody can, ESPN can take a victory lap. All these media outlets saying, look, see, everybody's interested in the WNBA. Nah, you're just using different metrics, which is changing what the viewership totals are.
Now we have to confront the part of this story that feels the most deliberate, the erasure of the person at the center of the league's meteoric rise, Caitlin Clark. This inflated narrative wasn't just built to sell success, it was structured to dilute her impact. Throughout the regular season, Clark wasn't just an athlete, she was a cultural phenomenon. Her presence transformed routine games into national events. Every arena she played in sold out. Her jersey became a must-have item. And media coverage surrounding her was unlike anything the WNBA had ever experienced. But here's the most important point, the one that puts everything else into perspective. Caitlin Clark's record-breaking viewership numbers happened under the old Nielsen system. The tougher one. The one that didn't pad its stats by counting silent TVs in hotel lobbies or background games at the gym. Her games routinely drew over 1.5 million live, engaged viewers, sometimes crossing the 2 million mark, all without relying on the expanded reach of the new measurement model. In other words, her success was real, organic, and earned. And yet, now, in the league's rebranded victory lap, her contribution is being minimized, folded into inflated totals that fail to distinguish between true fan engagement and passive screen time.
The official viewership numbers for Game 1 of the finals, and this is from ESPN, 1.9 million viewers, which is up 62%, with its peak at 2.5 million. And this is the most watched Game 1 of the WNBA finals in 28 years. I was actually pleasantly surprised by this data because I felt like the buzz around the WNBA finals has actually been pretty low this season. I thought the buzz around the Lynx Liberty finals last year had more buzz. Like, I was seeing a lot more people talk about that. Now, I have been seeing a ton of people talk about the game last night because obviously Asia's game winner was just legendary, and we are going to see that clip. We are going to see that photo for many, many of years. But up until last night, I felt like the buzz was really low on the finals. There were so many people who just weren't talking about it. They were talking about baseball, or they were talking about the NBA preseason or whatever, but it really wasn't focused on the finals. So when you see numbers like that, obviously those are great numbers, the best in 28 years. Another reason I was surprised by the numbers is because both games that were in Las Vegas actually weren't sold out, Game 1 and Game 2. And we also saw the ticket prices for those games. They were down to like $35. And then I believe the game last night was also down to like $10 per ticket. So it seemed like the demand for these WNBA finals had gone down a little bit, and both of the games in Vegas were not sold out. But I guess the TV numbers are still translating. So that's obviously a really good sign for the WNBA.
It's the moment when the full extent of the deception finally comes into view. The WNBA finals boasted an average audience of 1.9 million viewers, a number that, on the surface, sounds impressive. But here's the catch. The league had to overhaul their entire rating system just to nudge these figures slightly past what Caitlin Clark was drawing on any ordinary Tuesday during the regular season. It's a classic bait and switch. If Clark's regular season games were measured using this new, heavily inflated method, the ratings would have skyrocketed, dwarfing the finals by a massive margin. This isn't just mixing apples and oranges, it's like comparing a fresh, organic apple to a shiny, artificial replica. The league needed to pump up their stats to make the championship seem competitive against one superstar's regular season pull. So, why go to such lengths to stage this obvious manipulation? The answer is clear: panic. When Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever were eliminated early from the playoffs, the league's leadership must have felt the walls closing in. They had just lost their brightest national spotlight, their most compelling draw. The pressure from broadcasters and advertisers to preserve the Clark effect without Clark herself was immense. Suddenly, the postseason was starless, and the league scrambled to put on a brave face. The revised Nielsen rating system wasn't just a convenient trick, it was a desperate lifeline, a way to mask just how dependent the league had become on a single rookie phenom. Meanwhile, the real world told a very different story. Reports started to leak that challenged the official narrative of a league on the rise. Neither of the two championship games in Las Vegas sold out. On secondary markets, ticket prices plummeted, with some seats going for a laughably low $10. This isn't just anecdotal, it's hard evidence of waning fan interest. How can an event claim historic television ratings when the arenas themselves are half empty, and tickets cost less than a snack at the concession stand? This was the first glaring sign that the impressive TV numbers were nothing more than smoke and mirrors. Of course, this illusion couldn't have taken hold without the cooperation of the sports media. Major outlets, especially ESPN, deeply invested financially in the WNBA's success, parroted the league's spin without question. Headlines screamed record-breaking viewership, while the fine print, hidden deep in the articles, barely mentioned the rating system overhaul. This wasn't journalism, it was PR. Instead of providing critical context or questioning the numbers, the media chose to amplify a misleading story. They acted less like watchdogs and more like spin doctors, safeguarding their business interests by pushing a narrative they knew was flawed at its core. But the league and media underestimated the power of the internet. Online analysts, data detectives, and fans quickly caught on. They dug into the details, uncovered the Nielsen changes, and exposed the scheme for what it was. The backlash was swift and brutal, memes mocking the idea of counting TVs and even laundromats as viewers spread like wildfire. This wasn't just trolls having fun, it was a genuine backlash from people who felt deceived and disrespected. They recognized the manufactured nature of the victory and refused to accept a win built on distortion. Beyond the manipulated numbers, there's a truth you can't fake: cultural impact. When Caitlin Clark stepped onto the court, the digital world exploded. She dominated trending topics, sparked heated debates, and her highlights were impossible to avoid. Everyone in sports was talking about her. By contrast, the finals barely made a splash online. Social media buzz was muted, viral moments were nowhere to be found, and the vibrant energy that had defined the regular season vanished. The league can inflate ratings all it wants, but it can't fake genuine excitement or cultural resonance. And by that measure, the finals felt more like a ghost town than a grand spectacle. This scramble for a short-term PR win comes with a steep price, lasting damage to the league's credibility. By building their success story on distorted data, they've undermined trust that will be hard to rebuild. Future growth, no matter how real, will be met with skepticism. This is a corporate version of cooking the books. It might deliver a momentary boost, but the inevitable crash will be devastating. The league has set a false baseline they may never meet again honestly. They're stuck between admitting the deceit or continuing to live a lie indefinitely. Ironically, this fumbling effort to prove the league can stand without Caitlin Clark only proved how crucial she is. Their frantic attempts to craft a post-Clark success story revealed a harsh truth: the league still revolves around her gravitational pull. They had to rewrite reality and change the rules of measurement just to make life without her look remotely viable. It was a self-inflicted wound, a silent, desperate confession that even in her absence, the entire league's fortunes still depend on her star power. Now, the WNBA is trapped by its own narrative. The new Nielsen system can only be used once as a baseline. When next season kicks off, those inflated numbers become the standard. No more excuses, no asterisks. Any dip or stagnation in viewership will confirm this year's celebrated growth was just a statistical mirage. The league is now chained to a monster of its own making, forced to chase an impossible standard they created out of thin air. The pressure to perform is crushing, and this time, there's nowhere left to hide. So, there you have it, a tale of fake ratings, a complicit media, and a league desperately trying to conceal its inconvenient truth, its overwhelming dependence on one player. They can manipulate charts and spin press releases, but they can't replicate the genuine, culture-shifting excitement she brings simply by stepping on the court. This wasn't an accidental slip. It was a deliberate choice to favor fiction over reality. And the fallout from that decision is only starting to unfold. Don't think for a second that the players themselves are fooled by the headlines. They see the empty seats in the upper decks and feel the difference in the arena atmosphere. They know when the world is watching and when it isn't. While the league office cheers a manufactured milestone, the athletes understand the postseason buzz was a shadow compared to the electric energy during the regular season. This creates a quiet divide, a front office pushing a story of collective success, and players who know the real excitement centers on one individual. They may keep silent publicly, but they're far from naive. Meanwhile, advertisers and corporate sponsors operate with far more precise data. They analyze social engagement, click-through rates, and brand sentiment. They know the difference between 1 million ghost viewers and 1 million genuinely engaged fans. When they see a regular season game featuring Clark generating more online chatter than the entire final series, the truth is clear. The league may have won a brief PR skirmish, but the people signing the checks are looking at a much deeper, much more honest reality. The media's role in this goes beyond protecting a broadcast partner. For years, many in sports journalism have been on a mission to champion women's sports, especially the WNBA. Their careers and convictions are tied to the league's success. The rise of Caitlin Clark presented a problem. She attracted huge attention, but didn't fit the tidy narrative many preferred. Inflating the finals ratings was their way to wrest back control of the story and declare victory on their own terms, no matter how hollow. It was never about truth. It was about protecting the cause. Perhaps the biggest victim in all this is the championship team itself, the Las Vegas Aces and their star, Aya Wilson. The league's desperate effort to build a post-Clark success story has overshadowed their real achievements on the court. Instead of celebrating a historic dynasty and a dominant MVP, the conversation became mired in controversy over ratings legitimacy. The champions deserved praise and the spotlight, but instead, they became an afterthought in a scandal about manipulated statistics. The WNBA has now handed itself a poison chalice. They drank deeply from the cup of record-breaking success, but everything that follows will be viewed through a lens of suspicion. Future ratings, announcements of growth, even genuine accomplishments, all will be met with skepticism. The league traded long-term trust for a brief moment of positive headlines, creating a climate of doubt that will be hard to shake. Now, every claim of progress must be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt, a nearly impossible task since they themselves broke the measuring stick. Through it all, the silence from the top has been deafening. WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and other executives have stayed notably quiet, letting flawed headlines do the talking. This is not leadership, it's abdication. By refusing to explain the changes in the Nielsen system or address the controversy, they silently endorse the deception. Their silence suggests either ignorance of the damage done or a calculated hope that the storm will pass. Neither option inspires confidence. Imagine if they had chosen a different route. If they had been honest, they could have said, while finals viewership didn't reach the unprecedented heights set during Clark's regular season, we still saw meaningful growth in our core audience. That narrative would have been credible, respectful, and honest, acknowledging reality while highlighting genuine progress. But they didn't. Instead, they picked sensationalism over substance, revealing a deep insecurity at the heart of the league. They had an opportunity to build trust, but instead, they built a house of cards on shifting sands.